Hello and welcome. This is Jay with First Direct Corp. Today we're going to talk about email verification and email cleaning services for your GoldMine CRM system. A lot of people do a lot of bulk emailing out of GoldMine. They use other email services like Constant Contact or MailChimp or Marketo or Drip or iContact to do their email marketing with newsletters and bulk email, promotional emails, etc. And really, for those who send emails out of Goldmine, we want to always make sure that we're sending to a clean list. Over time, especially with everything that's going on in the last year or two with COVID and businesses going out of businesses, and obviously people being let go from businesses and a lot of heavy turnover, we want to make sure that the emails that we have are still valid and deliverable before we just decide to deliver to them and have a large number of hard bounces, because the internet service providers that relay your mail for you when you send email are listening and they're watching, and they know whether you have a very high bounce rate or whether a lot of people mark your email as spam or whether people open and read your email. They are able to determine that information. And if you're somebody who has really bad reputation of high bounces and high spam rates and high unopen rates, they will eventually just decide to stop relaying your mail. Your mail will not be delivered to the destination, and you really won't even know it. You'll be sending, and you don't realize that people are not getting your mail. And it's usually because you have a bad reputation, and it usually is resulting in too many non-deliverable bad emails, hard bounce emails. So using a service like this, neverbounce.com, there are lots of them out there. I'll talk about others. I'll show you how to find a list of others that are out there, but I'm using Neverbounce. Um, and you want to make sure that you're cleaning your list. So how do we go about automating that? I don't want to obviously. I could certainly get a list of emails out of my Goldmine and upload them into this service and let this service verify those emails. But how do I go about getting that all those ones that are non-deliverable? How do I remove those from my Goldmine without doing them one at a time? Right? I wouldn't want to get a list of 5,000 emails that are bad and then have to go through 5,000 emails and find that email in Goldmine and go search for it and remove it and delete it, etc. I want to automate that. I want to figure out, how can I automate that? How can I integrate the two systems? So on my server in my office, I have a RESTful web service, a RESTful API that I've written for my Goldmine. This little green icon over here is my web server, and it's hosting some code, a website, a web service that I can allow other applications on the internet to talk to it and do things in my Goldmine. Find emails, delete emails, create histories, create calls, create notes, create records, update fields, anything that I want to do in the Goldmine database. This API allows me to do that with data that's sent to it from other web apps. So what I want to demonstrate right now is I'm on a record in my Goldmine. How would I go about verifying a single email? Let's say I've just added a record to my Goldmine, or I'm on a record in Goldmine and I haven't talked to this person in a while. I want to go verify the primary email. I want to verify that that email is still valid. So I've clicked on a link, a little taskbar shortcut, which takes me out to a website, and it's basically saying status success. Yes, we communicated. Great. Let me close that. No big deal. If I come off and come back to the record, and you can see I've actually did it once earlier, about 4 or 5 minutes ago, and it actually came back as being valid. So I've actually verified it twice. I'll delete one of them. I don't need them both in there. So I've actually just verified that email, and that email is still valid. That's a valid email. It means it can be delivered to. Boom, done. So I could be on any record in my gold mine with an email address. And you can see here, I did this a few minutes ago, about 20 minutes ago, and I actually processed a whole bunch. I did a whole bunch, and I'm going to show you that here in a second. So you can see I've gone through all the emails in this record. There's a bunch of emails. I've gone through every email in this record and processed a whole bunch of them. So how do I do that? How do I can do one at a time, but how do I do a whole bunch at a time? Well, in Goldmine, I can do a contact search. Give me all my customers where the email address is not empty. And this is basically giving me every email and every record in my Goldmine. And I can export that list. I can take that list of how many I have 10,000, 5,000, whatever, how many I have, and I can output that to Excel. But I can't do it here on my server, so I'm just going to go over here to my Goldmine. I have that same query open up here. and I'm going to just scroll down and do 500. When you're on this list in Goldmine in your search engine, you can output that list to Excel. So I am getting my list of emails that are in my Goldmine into Excel. And in this case, I'm just going to grab a bunch. I'm just going to grab a few here, about 20 or 30. I'm going to copy those. So I'm going to take the emails. All I need from this is the emails. I'm grabbing a whole bunch of emails. It could be a lot more than the ones I'm grabbing. I'm only grabbing about 30 or so, but I could be grabbing 400, 500, 600, whatever. And I'm going to go to my Google Sheets. So I'm going over to Google Sheets. I'm not going into my Never Bounce. I'm going into Google Sheets. And you can see here, I've already got a sheet started with hundreds of emails. So I'm just going to the bottom of this and I'm going to do a paste. I'm going to paste all those emails that I just copied out of my Goldmine export into a Google Sheet. And the fact that I did that, it is automatically going through and processing all those, my web automation that I've done. So the fact that I took added a whole bunch of rows to this spreadsheet in Google Sheets, and I'm using Google Sheets because it's free. I could have done some other action or trigger, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but I used Google Sheets because it was just free and it was easy. And my zaps are automatically processing each one of those and sending them through my Never Bounce account for cleaning and then coming back to my Goldmine and doing something in my Goldmine. And I'll talk about that here in a second. So I can go out to my Zapier account and I'm going to go to my Zaps. Zaps are like workflows. Workflows, web automation between one or more apps. So, and actually, I've got some zaps held up from what I had to clean up earlier. But I'm going to talk a little about the first thing we did, the check if an email is valid. So, this zap, this workflow with Zapier is the web automation service that connects multiple apps together. When something happens when somebody subscribes to my MailChimp subscriber list, I want to add them to my CRM system. When someone places an order on my website, I want to add them to my MailChimp marketing list, and I want to add them to my online accounting system, and I want to add them to my CRM system, my online CRM system. Zapier allows all of that to happen fairly easily with some clicks of a button. So what I'm doing here is I'm talking about validating an email address. So one of the things that Zapier provides us is a webhook, which is like a website URL. It's a web script, a web URL, an endpoint to send data. And in my Goldmine, when I click on this Never Bounce Verify email, I am setting up a website to go to that website, but I'm also appending data to the end of the URL. So I'm adding the email address from the primary record to the end of that webhook script that Zapier is providing me. And I can obviously test that. I can go ahead and load up some of my polls. I just had one come through. And then I'm saying, okay, great. I want to take that email address that I sent to Zapier and I want to verify it through my Never Bounce account. So I've connected my Never Bounce account. The action they give me is to verify an email. I am then going and setting up my action. There's the email from the webhook. I'm adding that into this the Zapier web app, and they're going to go out and verify it. And they're going to return a result code and a text status, as well as the original email that I posted to them. And then I can test and review that. Boom, done. Great. So that's working. Well, once it's been verified, I am now sending that back to my Goldmine RESTful API with a webhook that I've hosted on my web server in my office. And I am setting up the email address and the result code. So I'm saying, okay, let's go find my webhook goes out and finds this email in Goldmine, creates a history of the fact that the email was processed. And if it's a result code of 0, which I believe is valid, it'll say it's valid. If there's a result code of 1, a 0, a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4. So depending on the result code, whether it could be verified that it's valid, maybe and it'll tell you all these different options. But really a 1 and a 2 are basically non-deliverable. Everything else is, yes, it's deliverable, or it could be, it's possible that it could be deliverable, or it's unknown that it's verified. But basically, my webhook, my RESTful API, processes that all that back into Goldmine, and that's hosted on a server in my office. It's a website, web service hosted on my in my office where my Goldmine is. Um, and let's look at the other one. Let's look at the other one that we did with the Google Sheets. So the one that's with Google Sheets is the triggering action here is when there are new. I set up my Google Sheets account, and the triggering is um, when there are new sheet rows. There are new rows added to this sheet, and we can test that. It'll go out and find a row that's been added. Well, what do I want to do when a new row is added? And I can do one at a time or a whole bunch at a time. It's going to go out and verify that email, pass that data to my webhook script on my website, on my web server, in my office where my Goldmine is. And my with that web script is going to process that email. Find that email in Goldmine. If it's valid, leave it. If it's invalid, remove it and create a history record. So let's go look at that. If I go into my Goldmine, I'm going to go over to my server. I'm going to run a query. I have a query here. I've already processed about 500 right now in the last half hour or so doing some testing that I've been doing. But I'm going to query this again. About 489 now. So about 489. Let me go back to my Zapier account. You'll notice on my Zapier account, it said that some of them were hung up. Well, it was because I ran out of tasks. I didn't have enough tasks. So I'm going to go out here and rerun these tasks that have were held up. So I'm going to replay these 87. Go ahead and replay these. And this is what I love about Zapier is that when something fails, when some web automation fails, it acts as an answering machine. It allows me to go back and replay these failed zaps. Otherwise, if I didn't have Zapier and I was just trying to integrate apps with other apps, and if something failed, it's done. There's like no way to go back and redo something that happened. Like it's live, it's automatic, it's automation. When somebody signs up, do something. Well, I can't get that person to go back and sign up and retry that in the real world, but Zapier captures that information and determines, well, we weren't able to do something, so we're going to let you know about it, and you can come back later on and try it again. So Zapier acts as an answering machine, if you will, for when your apps talk to one another and they don't successfully talk to one another. So maybe your web server's down in your office. Maybe your power went out because of a storm, or maybe some other app is down, or whatever. Maybe something is going on in the logic of your app, or something has changed. They'll let you know. They'll let you come back, tweak it, and rerun it. So we're replaying about 87 zaps. If I'm going to go back to my server and just retry this, see what happens. 489. So yeah, now you can see I got 563. So there are now 563 results. I'm going to query this again. 573. So 10 more just got played. So basically, Zapier is now processing those 80 other failed attempts. And you can see here now, I have pretty much started to verify. Now you'll notice there's email never bounce email verified, and then there's invalid email. On the invalid emails, if I show you this in the history, invalid email, it removed the email from the record and it's in the history of the record. So I could run a report that says, hey, give me a list of all the neverbounce.com invalid email history entries in the database and the notes from that history entry, and that's going to give you all the records in the goldmine that had an invalid email. It's obviously still stored in the record. It's still available. It's still seeable. I can call that person. I can talk to them on the phone and say, hey, your email wasn't able to be delivered. Do I have it spelled wrong? Has your email just changed? Any number of reasons will lead to a hard bounce. Maybe the person left the company. Maybe it was a woman. She got remarried and her email address changed. First letter, last name, right? Her last name may have changed, etc., etc. So this is email bounce. I'm sorry, email address cleaning service integration with Goldmine using Zapier and a self-hosted RESTful API for Goldmine. As I mentioned, there's lots of them out there, lots of email address cleaning services. If you want to learn more about them, if you go to zapier.com and then there explore apps that work with Zapier, there's a bunch of categories here of different categories of apps. There's a bunch of popular ones, but you can also search. If you just put the word bounce in there, you're going to get like unbounce, never bounce, zero bounce, bouncer, debounce, maybe list cleaning. Yeah, see, this is looking for an app name. Um, let's just do email address. Nothing on email. Let's just do email. Email octopus, elastic. These are email quick email verification. So again, there's lots of different web services for doing this. I have no preference over one or the other. I just happen to have heard of Neverbounce. I know they had a really good reputation and service, but you may know of others, or maybe there's other apps that you want to integrate with your Goldmine in similar ways. Web automation without having to write software and buy licensing and having a developer develop code, deal with the Windows updates, and I need a new update to my software. If you just want to automate things over the web and over the internet and have things work without really having to do too much on your end, this is a great option for you. So if you're interested in it, you're interested in talking about it and discussing how it can be set up for you and your gold mine, please do give us a call at First Direct at 845 221 3800. Thank you.